Hello everyone, and welcome to this video in which I will be presenting some results from the recent ISCA strategy period 2014 to 2017. I will be going through each of the pillars of that strategy, including advocacy, capacity building, knowledge and network sharing, communications, and growing the movement. Firstly then, advocacy. We said we would develop exemplary and inspiring evidence-based political statements and visions. And the example I will bring forward here is the inactivity time bomb, which consisted of a report done by the Centre of Economics and Business Research in the UK. And we did serious promotion as well of that report, including videos and some infographics and a launch event in Brussels. And I thought this collaboration with Coca-Cola was quite fruitful and interesting as an example of our advocacy work. We also said we would create platforms for members and stakeholders to align messages and statements. And my example here would be the Active Voice project, which is ongoing, in which we have several international partners and national partners, namely ISCA member organizations, working together on advocacy, and indeed also launching soon a social media campaign where these partners would then combine their resources and outreach to share common messages. We also said we would implement strategic goals-based advocacy via public presentations, meetings and communications. And my example here would be that we several times have gone to the European Parliament, not only to interview the parliamentarians and get their views and get them excited about the fiscal activity agenda, but also to engage them in fact in specific games and plays. And I think this has been quite fun and exciting. And in this picture you can see MVP Sean Kelly, who's always a good sport and happy to, let's say, play with us. Last example here would be the movement pills, a concept we adapted from Italy and have made our own indeed and enhanced it, and therefore now also something we use quite actively to promote our messages in physical activity promotion. Moving on then to capacity building, we said we'd be a creator and broker of knowledge in our sector by analyzing the key needs and priorities of our members and to spot trends and develop new concepts. When it comes to member needs, we have, I would say, a continuous dialogue with key ISCA members, understanding their needs and challenges, but we've also tried to do membership surveys to get some more systematic feedback from our members in terms of the services that we do provide. When it comes to testing new concepts and topics, here are 5 examples from the recent period: good governance in grassroots sports, targeting hard-to-reach populations, active voice as mentioned on advocacy, integrations of refugee and grassroots sports diplomacy, the latter being an entirely new concept that has never really been thought of before. We said we would grow the capacity of ISCA member organizations by offering and enabling them to join high-quality ISCA campaigns, projects and meetings. And here I would mention move quality and move transfer. Move quality being in a way of enhancing the capacity of member organizations and their current programs, and move transfer being a way to scale up current initiatives or transferring them indeed from one country to another one. I think when it comes to campaigns, it needs to be said that the Now We Move campaign has been a major part of what we do. Here we've listed some of the activities from the campaign in 2016, including the No Elevators Day, and Now We Bike, which is a European cross-border cycling tour, the European Flash Move, which is a shared dance, choreography and music all over Europe, European Fitness Day, of course, and finally the European School Sports Day, which is developed and delivered together with our Hungarian member organization, the Hungarian School Sport Federation. We also said we'd build useful tools for our members, and doing so by promoting both online and offline these tools. And I would mention 2 things here. Firstly, the good governance tools. Now this is firstly a self-assessment tool as well as a manual to go with that. And secondly, Move and Learn as another manual, which is also available online with online resources and examples of activities, fundamentally trying to develop and to deploy the education through sport methodology. When it comes to knowledge and network sharing, We said we'd identify and share best practices by developing new externally funded projects. And we can safely say we've done quite a bit of that. So here's just some examples of good practices collections we've done: movement spaces, integration of refugees, the MOVE project, the FARM project on women's sport, and several others in fact. And I think it's very illustrative of the way that ISKA works today, namely by being a broker of practical knowledge more than theoretical knowledge, let's say. We also said we facilitate networking between our members, and we do so by establishing thematic networks and supporting bi- and multilateral agreements. I would mention here the Moving Age Network, which had an event last year in Trieste, Italy, but is also supported by a web page on the ISKA website, as well as surveys of the network members and sharing of good practices on the web page. Here we can say that this is clearly the most active network, whereas some of the others have been more dormant, and it's of course worthwhile to evaluate that process going forward. Moving on to communications, we said we'd implement ISKA's corporate marketing communication strategy and deliver innovative communications both for the campaigns in Europe and in Latin America, but also for our ongoing projects. The campaign and the Move Week in particular has been a prime example of this. Here you can see some of the numbers from its peak in 2015 with a very good reach, and that's not only in Europe, of course. We also saw quite impressive outcomes when it comes to Latin America in that regard. We worked with multimedia promotion as well as social media, primarily Facebook and Twitter, but also offline materials such as t-shirts, bracelets, stickers, banners, posters, etc. Finally, I'd mention our public relations part of the Now Move campaign. In other words, trying to get our stories into existing media outlets and working with them to publish stories of interest for us indeed. Finally, I'd mention that we've also scaled up our visibility and outreach when it comes to our ISKA blog, as well as our social media presence when it comes to ISKA more generally, as well as our ongoing work to publish monthly newsletters. The final part of the strategy was growing the movement, and firstly we wanted to enable continental development by minimally organizing on each of the active continents one meeting or gathering every second year, as well as media networks. From Latin America, we can safely say that the development has been very exciting. Move Week and Move Brazil as two examples, as well as Youth on the Move and bilateral collaboration in Colombia. On the latter two, Youth on the Move is now an ended project with EU funding, but I think a good example of ways to collaborate between Europe and Latin America with external funding. Knowledge and network sharing between our members has also happened in this field. So with ISKA as the broker, you could say we had a bilateral agreement with SENA in Colombia, and through that agreement UBAE from Spain are working bilaterally with delivering capacity building, and we're trying to renew that agreement as well as build further agreements with other actors in Colombia. We also said we'd increase the ISKA membership, doing so by systematically recruiting new members and engaging the existing members even further. And here the numbers clearly indicate that we've had a great increase in membership over the last period. The way to measure the engagement is a little bit hard to come by, but at least for the number of members we've been quite successful. On the financial situation, we wanted to grow all parameters, in fact both the unrestricted funding as well as public and corporate funding. We wanted to have a more stable equity and to help our members, in fact, to grow their financial capacities. And here you can see the financial sheet of ISKA in summary. Just very generally speaking, we've not been able to meet those goals. We've had a rather stable development in terms of those different funding streams. As you can see, also very diverse funding streams, but we haven't been able to grow as much as we'd hoped, and I think that's something worth considering as well in a strategic discussion. Finally, we said we'd establish strategic alliances with selective partners. Here we just mentioned the Move Congress, which, as you know, is coming again to Birmingham this year. And not only does that provide a platform for the participants and ISKA members to engage and to find their partners, but also for ISKA in fact to engage with new people in terms of both participants and partners and speakers at the Congress, and illustrate therefore what we believe is the right way to deliver cross-sector partnerships. So all in all, these were my comments to the strategy and a few examples of how the strategy has come to life. In fact, I would look forward to our discussion about the strategy as well as to the discussion on what the future strategy should then be. And thank you for your attention.